What is a subtle sign someone isn't a good person? Story 1. Always be aware of gossip and people who are nasty about others behind their backs. You are probably not the only person they're telling, and they are most likely gossiping about you to other people as well. If someone never has anything nice to say about other people, then they are definitely saying nasty things about you behind your back. A lot of people use gossip as a way to establish rapport with you. The worst part is that this actually works with lots of people. It works if you're primed for negative interactions. I know because of my upbringing, it can be easy for me to fall into this trap if I'm in the wrong headspace. That's why I stay away now at the first sign of this. It's too easy to fall into the trap on a bad day. Also, it lets me know to stay away from the people who do fall for it. If you believe in gossip about people you don't know, I'm staying away from you. There's nothing keeping you from changing your opinion of me because someone else told you I gave them a dirty look. I feel like we've all had an experience in the workplace where a coworker that was nice to you before is suddenly giving you the cold shoulder. Story 2. They have something bad to say about everyone. They have to tell you how nice, honest, smart, and hardworking they are. The second they get upset with someone, they're on a mission to ruin their life. Okay, I guess the last one isn't so subtle, unless they're doing it in a way where you don't know it's them. Those people that seem like they're on a mission after someone upsets them are the same people that say, "Don't get on my bad side." My experience with people who say that has always been that they have a hair trigger sensitivity, where they act all tough but are actually super sensitive. When they feel like someone slighted them, they are burning with anger and looking to get them however they can, even for something simple like someone disagreeing with them or saying something in a way they don't like. I work with two people like this. One of them is someone I supervise, and she's had an issue with everyone in the department at one point or another over stupid stuff. Yet she swears she is sweet and has thick skin. But don't get on her bad side. It's like an excuse to be able to unleash anger on someone because they warned them first, so they can shift the blame. This behavior is similar to those that say they're brutally honest. It's just a warning that they're going to be rude whenever they want to be. Story 3. They say you're in the wrong for getting upset at their crappy behavior. In a lot of toxic relationships, you can confront them about their story not making any sense, and they'll say, "Why did you look into it? You don't trust me?" Or in the case of my mother, "I never said that. You're mishearing things and making things up." Yep, been there. I actually started recording my mother on my phone and proving her wrong, but she'd just try to gaslight her way out of her situation by saying I'm misinterpreting her words or purposefully making her look bad. Really wish there was a lesson in that story. There's far too many parents out there that think giving birth and providing basic care means you get to walk all over this person however you please. Story 4. When they can't apologize. I'm sorry you feel that way, but I don't feel like I've done anything wrong. Some people actually think this is sincere. They can't comprehend what an apology is. This is the ceasefire in a relationship versus an actual peace treaty where you come to a reasonable agreement and can build for the future. They're basically using their language to hint that it might happen again. They're admitting that they're unwilling to put effort into working on the larger problem, but they're open to dropping the most immediate issue for the time being, considering the problem solved. Some people feel a compulsive need to dominate social situations for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's very intentional behavior, and sometimes it's not something the person fully has control over. Sometimes they're just overcompensating for a weakness of theirs. It's important to know what their motivation for acting this way is before you write them off as a bad person. People usually act in a negative manner for an easily identifiable reason. These types of personalities like to use the ceasefire method because it helps them be sure that they didn't sacrifice any power, even if that would have benefited them in the big picture. They won't cooperate in order to avoid the problem. In fact, they might disagree that there even is a problem to begin with. If this person feels like they're simply unable to give you what you're asking for, they will simply back down from this behavior because they would never admit to being less than perfect. Story 5. If they make fun of someone's smile or laughter. My mom used to tell me how weird my smile was and say it was annoying when I laughed. It's such an awful thing to do. I also want to mention that there's a difference between disliking someone's laughter and making fun of it. I've personally heard laughs that I thought were a bit strange, but that thought stays in my head where it belongs, where it can only affect me. My mom used to tell me I was grinning like an idiot in every picture. Everyone else said I had a beautiful smile. Narcissists try to slowly kill your spirit. My mom still makes comments comments about my teeth, and it's something that shatters my already destroyed self-esteem. They're not bad, but they're not great. However, I'm not able to whiten them without causing even more damage. I'm getting married in October, and all my mom has been able to talk about is how I need to either ignore my dentist and get my teeth professionally whitened, or I need an off-white dress so no one notices my teeth. It sounds like she knows you'll be radiating joy on your wedding day and doesn't like that. Narcissists usually don't like people thinking that someone else is happier than them at any given moment. Story 6. How they treat the person serving them their food. A company I used to work at had an excellent interview strategy for executive positions. Take a candidate through a series of stressful morning interviews, then come up with an unexpected delay and give them a voucher for a free lunch at the restaurant next door. The restaurant would have already been asked to report back on how well they treated the staff. Not interacting much was fine as long as they were polite. Being rude meant that they weren't getting the offer. Honestly, if I was in the candidate's position, I would have been ecstatic to have received a free meal voucher. It makes no sense that someone would feel the need to be a jerk when they're eating for free. However, it's corporate management. You get a bunch of psychos in there, many will be upset by an unexpected contingency and take it out on those around them. These things are good to know before hiring because they'll do it to the people working for them too, even when they keep on a good face for clients. It's the lower level staff, especially including moral and retention, that really makes or breaks a place. This sounds too good to be true, but I really hope there are places that do these kinds of tests during the hiring process. Story 7. If they say stuff like, "Sometimes I wonder if I'm a bad person, but then I realize that a bad person would never question if they were bad, so I must not be that bad." Questioning if you are a bad person does not make you a good person. Bad people are perfectly capable of questioning whether or not they are bad. The difference between a good person and a bad person is not which one questions themselves, but which one gives themselves a free pass. Story 8. They tell small lies, the kind you might pick up on and not mention because it's not anything big, but when added up they can completely change the context of a situation. A former friend of mine did this a lot. He usually lied about how many girls he definitely wasn't sleeping with. In one instance, he told everyone that he stole a guy's girlfriend while they were all in class together, and the boyfriend did nothing. A mutual friend was there and he told me what really happened. Apparently he tried to go in for a kiss, but she rejected him. The boyfriend saw this happen and basically my friend got his butt kicked that day. I know someone who does an even more subtle version of this. He won't outright lie, but he'll say something that clearly implies a certain interpretation, and then gets evasive if you try to pin him down on the actual facts. For instance, he'll tell you he met some girl and say things like, "We really hit it off," or "We had a very intimate conversation," to imply that he slept with them or something close to that. He's banking on people just assuming and not asking any follow-up questions. If you do ask, "What do you mean by that?" he'll dance around the facts as much as possible. But if you keep at it long enough, you'll find out that no, they didn't sleep together and she wasn't even necessarily interested in him. He just found her attractive and wanted you to think something had happened between them. Yikes. This kind of behavior is how girls get labeled in high school for things they didn't do. I kind of just feel bad for all the girls that talked to him without knowing that he did this kind of stuff. Story 9. Halfway through the grocery store, in the middle of the warm aisle, they suddenly decide they don't need the frozen or refrigerated item in their cart after all, and rather than returning it to where they found it, they chose to just leave it on the shelf. There is nothing preventing them from putting it back in the freezer, but they're actively making the choice to allow whatever perishable item it is to sit in the open air and spoil, effectively making it garbage so no one else can use it. Story 10. My ex slowly lost all of her friends over time. She'd make new ones and then somehow burn those bridges too. She also used to gossip and talk badly about everyone she knew, including me. At least one friend, who I never even met, thought I was scum because of what she said about me. My ex's mom hated me and I never understood why, because I tried my best to be nice and win her over. Turns out he was complaining about every little thing I'd do that annoyed him. Then he'd tell me I was imagining it when I asked if his mom didn't like me. I think the worst is when it's your own parents. My mom used to openly complain about me to people and make up complete lies. Then when I'd call her out, she'd threaten me by saying I wouldn't be able to see my dad if I embarrassed her like that again. It was awful. She used to make me sound like an unkempt screw-up. Now she tries to brag about me, but in private will still berate me and tell me I'm essentially worthless. It's like having a high school bully for a parent. Story 11. The victim complex. I find that everyone I meet with a victim complex is not trustworthy and cannot take responsibility for their actions. Often these people are narcissists. My mom is like that. The older I get, the more aware I become, and the harder it is to interact with her, which is sad because I'm her last remaining son. I can't even stand being in the same room with her anymore. She talks without actually listening to the other person. She thinks she's communicating but never lets anyone speak longer than 3 to 4 words before she interrupts again. She will also bend reality for all sorts of things that have happened in our past, so they can suit her current mood or current objectives. Once I had to yell at her to stop talking to my wife about one of my past relationships because she was making up memories that didn't actually happen, to embarrass me or something. She became so distraught over this that she was sobbing uncontrollably until I apologized to her, like it was my fault she decided to start making stuff up, let alone have an inappropriate conversation with my wife. Pure crazy. Narcissists are crazy and incurable from what I've seen. It saddens me because I feel like I'm losing my mom before she's even actually gone. What really increased the speed of my awareness was getting treatment for over 20 years worth of mental and physical abuse by my dad. Turns out my mom was just as culpable for the mental abuse, and she didn't say or do anything while he abused us, but I couldn't identify it until I got the treatment I needed to learn what normal, non-abusive communication and behaviors are. Story 12. They cut in line. This is one of the more accurate answers in terms of it being subtle. It's simple and people often treat it as a joke, but it's very telling. It shows how they view other people. People who cut in line persistently don't see other people as real. It's a pretty clear sign of narcissism and contempt for anyone who doesn't have some kind of power over them. Just in general, disregarding other people, littering, not putting your card away, using your phone in a movie theater, being rude to retail or service workers, etc. None of this is illegal, just crappy. Always implies the attitude of I'm better than everyone else, the rules don't apply to me. Please like and subscribe if you've made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day. Story 13. They often criticize others but can't handle any criticism about themselves at all. A related concern is when they're super nice to you but only criticize or talk down to people who they view as beneath them, like restaurant servers, retail workers, etc. If the only reason you're nice to someone is because you see them as an equal in some arbitrary human valuation process, then you're the garbage. One guy I dated was like that too. So sweet in the beginning and always wanted to hang out. Then he realized that I wasn't cool enough for him. He didn't want anyone to know we were dating. He straight up told me he didn't want feelings for someone like me, then asked me what I was going to do about it, and never spoke to me again. I remember he would point and laugh at me and make crass comments. I faced a year of terrible harassment from him. It was wild how quickly he turned. I was completely thrown away as he continued to climb up that social ladder. We were teens then, so of course inexperienced me took his words to heart, and it unfortunately took me a few years to regain my self-esteem. I felt like something was just inherently wrong with me to be treated that way. Story 14. As a mostly reformed bad person who was raised by bad people, I know a few things. They'll say whatever you want to hear to get you to shut up. They genuinely show very little concern for your well-being, to the point where you feel your emotions are an afterthought. There's a double standard in the relationship where they can get away with things you can't. You've caught them doing something really crappy but only once or twice, so you forgive them. They genuinely don't notice when they do something harmful. You find you're always doing what they want to do. You get promises of changed behavior, like a lot, but rarely see any change. You have to let things go, but they don't have to. They make you feel bad about a fundamental part of who you are. You're always aware of how you could be different or better in their eyes. They disappear and come back whenever they want. This is because they know you'll be there, and that gives them a sense of freedom. They're really vague about things in their past that could paint them even a little bit unflattering. They usually briefly play victim, then change the subject. They're inconsistent in relationships, taking things seriously, moving really fast, then just disappearing. When you ask for changed behavior after an apology, the apologies turn into excuses instead. They'll need you to always pity them for some reason or another. They frequently have a different best friend or friend group. They're uninterested in your life unless it's gossip or something they can use against you. You find yourself frequently questioning them or yourself. Did that really happen? Did I just convince myself of that because I was already mad? They push your boundaries, but they'll act selfless in doing so. I can't stress this enough. If they're bad to other people, they will do those things to you. You are not the exception. All that being said, a lot of it comes from significant trauma. If you can cause people that much pain and not care, it usually is because you couldn't attach to your caregiver in a normal way, so you never learned empathy and other very important things. However, it is not your job to rescue people like this, even if they ask you to. In fact, that can often be another manipulative tactic to get you to stay. The final thing I will say is that if you're someone who grew up in an abusive environment, you're usually going to have an extra hard time seeing that you're being abused, or you're going to be drawn to abusive people because you aren't used to normal boundaries, and it will feel like love since it's what you know. That can be healed though. Story 15. Anything you say to them can and will be used against you, but subtly. I had a guy like this in my life for way too long. He was superficially charming and friendly, but I came to learn that every single interaction was transactional. Every confidence or weakness he learned about a person was tucked away to throw back in their face or hurt them when he was mad about something. He always had to be doing the opposite of what you say he was doing. He always had to be right. If you ignored his sleazy comments or laughed at him, he would double down, but if you called him out, he was just joking and would always say stuff like, "Obviously I don't mean it, and you're just so sensitive." I have never once regretted my decision to cut him off. He still pops up in my inbox every few months trying to reconnect because he's alienated every person who gets close to him. Story 16. Talking about how all their friends left them or that they were kicked out of multiple friend groups. It keeps happening for a reason. I went to a wedding. No one in our family thought too highly of the groom by this point. When we got to the wedding and saw his side almost empty, except for a few stragglers, we asked where his family was. Someone said none of his family could come. The marriage was worse than bad. I can't even tell you what he put her through before she finally divorced him. If someone doesn't even have any family, that's one thing. But if your mom and dad can't make it to the wedding, your brothers and sisters, he had all of that, but none of them wanted to be at his wedding. Or when everyone bullies them everywhere they go. We had a housemate studying medicine, and apparently people were bullying her in front of the lecturers who were doing nothing. Her hospital placements had all staff across different areas ganging up on her. Random people at the gym were picking on her, supermarket staff, restaurant staff, her family bullied her, all her friend groups at school were bullying her, and so on. Later, we found out she accused us of bullying her when we just made her pay for her part of the utilities payment. Story 17. Honestly, being hypercritical of others, especially certain social and political groups, without showing any introspection, has become a real red flag. Virtue signaling, basically. I agree with this. The worst guy I was ever involved with constantly complained about the way men treated women. He hated womanizers, etc. He was always complaining about others and how important it was to be compassionate. I bought into it at first, but after a while he became horrible. He told me I would never be good enough for him, made fun of me, said horrible things behind my back, was very hostile, harassed me even months after we stopped seeing each other, slept with my roommate, and the list goes on. It was awful. Since then, I haven't trusted people who talk a big game and then complain constantly about other people. Talk can be cheap. Actions speak louder than words. Story 18. Look at how they treat the people around them. See if they treat people they view as below them or worse, or with dignity and respect. I went on a few dates with a girl in university who seemed lovely. She was a fair bit more attractive than me as well, so I was ecstatic. She was great with my friends and made them all laugh. But when I met her friend group, there was this one girl who had a whole different role in the group. The whole group teased her a bit, but the girl I was dating ripped into her. I was uncomfortable, but I didn't know the dynamic, so I held my tongue. Afterward, I asked what the deal was. I thought the girl had offended her or kicked her dog or something, but she said something along the lines of nobody likes her and they just let her hang around because they feel sorry for her. So who cares if they're a bit mean? At least she has friends. Safe to say, we didn't go on too many dates after that, but it was like a switch had flipped. There was no evidence at all that she was like that. She was lovely to the waitstaff, she was helpful to other girls on nights out, but as soon as she saw somebody she didn't like, for whatever shallow reason, she was an entirely different person. I later met somebody who shared a seminar group with her, and apparently she was similar there. Lovely with some people, but awful to people she thought were stupid or beneath her in some way. Story 19. You feel the need to be careful with what you say and how you say it to them because they'll twist words to make you sound like the bad guy. Too many misunderstandings can make you extremely unsure of yourself and make you walk on eggshells. Too many times and with too many people I've ignored this warning sign. I think I'm finally learning, but I did end up developing strong fears and anxieties that made me into a different person, not to mention the social effect these people have. I lost a lot of friends and a job because of lies spread by a person like this. With my new anxieties, I find it so much harder harder to be assertive and challenge things people say that are wrong, things I never had issues with before. It's affected my relationships with friends and even my work performance, since I'm a manager. I'm getting better slowly. Story 20. They are very concerned with making sure you know they're a good person. I dated a guy like this. He'd always put on his nice guy persona to make me and others think he was this wonderful and caring guy. He was a complete narcissist and a lying tool. Life got really bad the minute we moved in together and his mask came off. My version of this person came really close to hitting me, so I threw him out and my mom was so angry because he was so handsome and so nice. She treated the next man I was with, my now husband, like garbage from the day she met him until her death 15 years later. He's an incredible man. But sure, Mom, let's stay with an abusive a-hole who screamed at me constantly. I'll never understand parents who pick sides when their kid is going through a breakup. Like, even if nothing bad happened, so what? Why would you want your kid to settle? Wouldn't you want your kid to meet their Prince Charming and live happily ever after? I know that sounds dumb, but I'm serious. Why would you want your kid to not strive for their happiest life? Sometimes relationships just don't work. Even if both people were nice, it doesn't mean they're perfect for each other. I think the biggest issue with those parents is that they think adult relationships are just settling. They can be, but they don't have to be. Story 21. They call everyone else crazy and portray themselves as never doing anything wrong. It's tough when they're family and you want to believe them until the undeniable truth comes out and you have to look back on all your past interactions, only to realize there were dozens of red flags. This is how I know when my mom is lying. She has a very specific tone of voice that she thinks makes her sound like a level-headed, calm, honest person as she describes past situations, but she uses it exclusively when she's altering the facts of what happened. I call it her "I'm perfect" voice. The only time she will ever apologize is using that same voice, and it's very obvious she's lying. Then she'll usually follow it up with, "Why, it's still your fault." Story 22. When they apologize during a conflict, they get angry if that doesn't immediately end the conflict because they never truly felt sorry and their only goal was to escape repercussions. This will become evident when their behavior they'd apologized for keeps happening and never improves. Or alternatively, if they won't accept an apology just to repeat themselves. Sometimes people are unreasonable. I had a problem with my mother where she would bombard me with the exact same arguments word for word. Then I would say that I was sorry and she would say, "Don't say sorry, just don't do it again," and then go on the same 2-minute rant using every argument the way she did before. So then I would say, "Mom, I understand. I am sorry and I will try to do better," and she'd start over. At some point, I would be feeling more mad than remorseful, but I would try to be understanding, so I'd tell her that all I can do is try harder next time. Then she would say, "There shouldn't be a next time. Don't try to do better, just do it," and then cue the 4th rant using the same key points as before. I finally learned that me replying to her meant that I just didn't want to listen and that she would tire herself out after a while if I just sat there silently. I was genuine in my remorse at first, but after she repeated herself 4 times, I would have said anything to stop her from yelling the same thing in my face again. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. For more videos like this one right now, please stop by our channel. Thanks again, and see you next time.